My billionaire CEO ex's new wife framed my twins for theft. What happened next shocked the courtroom. Her phone is recording. The entire courtroom froze. Every eye turned to the small 9-year-old girl standing at the defense table, her finger pointing directly at the woman in the designer black dress. Vanessa Castellano clutched her cream-colored Birkin bag tighter against her chest. Her perfectly made-up face went pale. "Mrs. Castellano, hand your phone to the bailiff. Now." Judge Christopher Brennan's voice cut through the silence like a knife. "No." Vanessa's voice cracked. "That is my private property. You cannot just take it. This is a court of law, Mrs. Castellano." The judge stood up from his bench, his face darkening with anger. "I will ask you one more time. Hand over that phone." The bailiff moved toward Vanessa. She stepped backward, shaking her head violently. "You do not understand. I did not know it was recording. It must have turned on by accident. I swear I did not mean to leave it on." The bailiff reached for the bag. Vanessa tried to run, but he was faster. He pulled the expensive purse from her trembling hands and retrieved the phone from inside. The screen glowed bright. A voice recording app was active. The timer displayed 18 days, 6 hours, and 23 minutes. 18 days. The judge took the phone from the bailiff and stared at the screen. His jaw clenched. This recording has been running since before these children were even arrested. Rachel Winters sat frozen behind the defense table, hardly daring to breathe. Her daughters, Harper and Paige, stood together holding hands. Their eyes were wide with hope and terror. "Should I press play, Mrs. Castellano?" The judge looked up at Vanessa. His eyes were ice cold. "Or would you like to save this court some time and confess to what you have done?" Vanessa's expensive lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. She pushed him away roughly. "This is a setup. Someone tampered with my phone. Those girls, they must have. They are trying to frame me. Frame you." The judge's voice dropped to a deadly calm. "Let us see about that." He scrolled backward through the recording, found a timestamp from 2 weeks earlier, pressed play. The courtroom speakers crackled to life. Then Vanessa's voice filled the space. But it was not the sweet, sorrowful voice she had used on the witness stand. This voice was cold, calculating, venomous. "Those little brats think they are going to get all of Derek's money. $78 million. It should be mine. I married that boring man. I sat through his endless business dinners and smiled at his pathetic friends. I earned every penny of that money." Someone in the jury gasped. Vanessa's face flushed red. The recording continued. "I will plant the bracelet in their school lockers. It will be easy. I volunteer at Oakmont Academy. I have access to the student hallway. I will slip it into Paige's locker, call the police, and play the devastated victim. They are just children. No one will believe them over me. Once they are convicted and sent away, I can petition the court to transfer guardianship to me. Then I will control the trust fund. I will get everything Derek owed me. Everything I deserve." Vanessa laughed on the recording. It was a cruel, ugly sound that made Rachel's skin crawl. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambled to write. Jury members stared at Vanessa with open disgust. The prosecutor, Catherine Frost, closed her eyes and shook her head slowly. Judge Brennan silenced the recording. He looked at Vanessa with an expression of pure fury. "In 30 years on this bench, I have never witnessed such evil. But let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you how a mother's worst nightmare became a fight for truth, justice, and the soul of her family. Let me tell you how 2 innocent little girls almost lost everything to a woman who valued money more than human life. Have you ever been accused of something you did not do? Have you ever watched someone you love suffer and felt completely powerless to stop it? Have you ever stared into the face of injustice and wondered if truth even matters anymore? This is the story of Rachel Winters, a kindergarten teacher, a divorced mother, a woman who lost almost everything when her billionaire husband left her. But when that same ex-husband died and his new wife tried to destroy Rachel's children, Rachel discovered that a mother's love is the most powerful force on earth. This is a story about greed and innocence, about lies and truth, about a legal system that almost failed 2 children, and about the one tiny mistake that exposed everything. If you believe in fighting for what is right, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button, not for me, but because this story needs to reach every parent out there who has ever felt powerless. Subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips because I share real stories about real people who prove that truth and love will always win in the end. And drop a comment telling me where you are watching from and what you would do if someone tried to destroy your children. Because this community is built on people who believe in justice. Now let me tell you how this all began. Rachel Winters stood in front of her second-grade classroom at Riverside Elementary School in Seattle, Washington. She wore a simple cotton dress from Target and comfortable flats. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She was helping a little boy named Jamal sound out words in his reading book when her phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it. She was working. Her students deserved her full attention. The phone buzzed again. And again. "Miss Winters, can I go to the bathroom?" A small girl named Keisha raised her hand. "Of course, sweetie." Rachel smiled at her. "When you come back, we will work on your math worksheet together." The phone buzzed a fourth time. Rachel frowned. Something was wrong. People did not call 4 times in a row unless it was an emergency. She pulled out her phone and glanced at the screen. 3 missed calls from Oakmont Academy. 2 voicemails. Her heart started hammering against her ribs. Oakmont Academy was the private school where her daughters Harper and Paige were students. Why would they be calling in the middle of the day? Rachel's teaching assistant, Mrs. Chen, noticed her pale face. "Is everything okay? I need to check something." Rachel's hands were shaking as she opened the voicemail. "Can you watch the class for just a minute?" "Of course. Go." Rachel stepped into the hallway. She pressed the phone to her ear and listened to the first message. "Miss Winters, this is Principal Foster. Please call me immediately. There has been an incident involving Harper and Paige." Her voice was tight with stress. Rachel's stomach dropped. She listened to the second voicemail. "Miss Winters, this is Principal Foster again. The police are here at the school. Your daughters have been accused of theft. You need to come to Oakmont right now." The phone slipped from Rachel's hand. It clattered on the tile floor. Police. Theft. Her babies. Rachel ran back into her classroom. "Mrs. Chen, I have to go. It is an emergency. Can you cover my class for the rest of the day?" "Yes, of course. Is everything all right?" Rachel did not answer. She grabbed her purse and her car keys and sprinted down the hallway. Her heart was racing so fast she thought it might explode. Harper and Paige were 9 years old. They were good girls, sweet girls. They had never been in trouble in their entire lives. This had to be a mistake. It had to be. Rachel drove across Seattle with tears streaming down her face. She ran 2 yellow lights. She did not care. Her daughters needed her. When she pulled into the parking lot of Oakmont Academy, she saw 2 police cars parked near the front entrance. Black and white vehicles with lights on top. The sight made her physically sick. Rachel parked crookedly and ran toward the building. She burst through the front doors and nearly collided with Principal Foster. Principal Foster was a dignified woman in her 50s, with gray hair and kind eyes. But today her eyes were full of distress. "Miss Winters, thank God you are here. What is happening? Where are my daughters?" Rachel could barely get the words out. She was shaking all over. "Please, come with me." Principal Foster led Rachel down the hallway toward the administrative offices. "I am so sorry. Mrs. Castellano called the police this morning. She claimed that Harper and Paige stole a diamond bracelet from her home during their visit last weekend." "What?" Rachel stopped walking. "That is insane. My daughters would never steal anything. The police searched their lockers." Principal Foster's voice was gentle but firm. "They found the bracelet." The world tilted sideways. Rachel grabbed the wall to steady herself. "That is impossible. There has to be some mistake. I wish there was." Principal Foster opened the door to the administrative office. "Your daughters are in there with the police officers." Rachel looked through the glass window. Her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Harper and Paige sat in chairs against the wall. They were wearing their school uniforms, navy blue jumpers and white blouses. Their faces were streaked with tears. They looked so small, so scared, so utterly terrified. 2 police officers stood nearby, a tall man with dark hair and a woman with sharp features. Rachel burst through the door. Harper, Paige, both girls jumped up and ran to their mother. Rachel dropped to her knees and wrapped them in her arms. They were sobbing so hard their whole bodies shook. "Mom, we did not do it." Harper buried her face in Rachel's shoulder. "We did not take anything. I promise." "She is lying." Paige's voice was high and panicked. "Vanessa is lying. Mom, You have to believe us. I believe you. Rachel held them tighter. I believe you, babies. The male officer stepped forward. His name tag read Officer Kowalski. Miss Winters, I am afraid your daughters need to come with us. Rachel stood up, positioning herself between the officer and her children. They are 9 years old. You cannot arrest them. Mrs. Castellano filed a formal complaint. The female officer spoke now. Her name tag said Officer Brennan. The bracelet was found in Paige's locker. It is worth over $60,000. This is felony theft. My daughters did not steal anything. Rachel's voice shook with fury and fear. I do not know how that bracelet got into the locker, but they did not take it. That is for the courts to decide. Officer Kowalski's expression was sympathetic but firm. For now, we need to take them to the juvenile detention center. No. Rachel's voice came out as a scream. Please, they are just babies. Please do not do this. But the officers were already moving toward Harper and Paige. We need you to come with us, girls. Officer Brennan's voice was gentle, but it did not matter. This was a nightmare. Harper grabbed Rachel's hand. Mom, please do not let them take us. Paige was crying so hard she could not speak. She just clung to Rachel's waist. Officer Kowalski pulled out handcuffs. Small ones, made for children. Rachel felt like she was dying. You are going to handcuff them? They are 9 years old. They are not dangerous criminals. It is protocol, ma'am. I am sorry. Rachel watched in horror as the officer put handcuffs on Harper's tiny wrists. The metal looked huge against her daughter's small hands. Harper was shaking violently. Then he put handcuffs on Paige. Paige looked up at Rachel with eyes full of betrayal and confusion. Mom, why is this happening? I do not know, baby. Rachel was sobbing now. But I'm going to fix this. I promise I'm going to fix this. The officers led Harper and Paige toward the door. Both girls were crying, reaching back toward their mother. Mom. Harper's voice was a desperate wail. Mommy, please. Paige was begging. Rachel tried to follow, but Principal Foster held her back gently. Let me call a lawyer for you. You need legal help. Rachel collapsed into a chair. Her whole body was shaking. This could not be happening. This could not be real. But it was real. Her daughters, her innocent babies, were being taken away in handcuffs. And Rachel knew exactly who was behind this. Vanessa Castellano, her ex-husband's widow, the woman who had smiled sweetly at Harper and Paige for months, the woman who had pretended to care, the woman who was willing to destroy 2 children to get her hands on their inheritance. Rachel had never hated anyone in her entire life. But in that moment, sitting in that office with her heart breaking into pieces, she hated Vanessa with every fiber of her being. 3 years ago, Rachel's life had been completely different. She had been married to Derek Castellano. They had lived in a beautiful house. They had been a family. But that felt like a lifetime ago now. Rachel met Derek when she was 25 years old. She was a kindergarten teacher at a small school in the Ballard neighborhood of Seattle. Derek was 27. He was working on a startup technology company in a tiny rented office space above a coffee shop. Derek came into the preschool one day to fix the internet connection. The school's regular IT guy was sick. Derek's roommate worked at the school and recommended him for the emergency repair job. Rachel was sitting on the floor in her classroom helping a little girl build a tower out of blocks when Derek walked in. He had messy brown hair and wore an old Star Wars t-shirt. He carried a laptop bag and looked nervous. Hi, are you the teacher? His voice was soft, kind. That is me. Rachel stood up and brushed the dust off her jeans. You must be the it guy. Derek Castellano. He shook her hand. His palm was warm. I will try not to disturb your class. Rachel watched him work. He sat cross-legged on the floor near the router, typing on his laptop. He smiled at the children when they walked past him. One little boy stopped and asked what Derek was doing. Derek patiently explained about internet connections in simple words the child could understand. After Derek fixed the internet, he lingered near Rachel's classroom door. I know this might be inappropriate, but would you like to get coffee sometime? Rachel smiled. I would like that. They went to a small cafe near Green Lake the following Saturday. Derek told Rachel about his startup. He was building software to help small businesses manage their finances. He had 2 partners, and they were working out of a cramped office for free because the landlord was Derek's uncle. It is probably going to fail. Derek laughed, but his eyes were full of hope. Most startups do. But I have to try, you know. I have to see if this idea can work. Rachel loved his honesty, his humility. I do not think it will fail. You seem like someone who works hard and cares about what he is doing. That counts for a lot. They dated for 2 years. Derek worked insane hours on his startup, 80, 90, sometimes 100 hours a week. Rachel worked her teaching job during the day and picked up tutoring gigs at night to help with money. When Derek needed $5,000 to keep the business running, Rachel gave him her savings. When Derek needed someone to proofread his investor pitch, Rachel stayed up until 3 in the morning helping him. When Derek was stressed and exhausted and ready to quit, Rachel held him and told him he could do this. Derek proposed on a rainy Tuesday evening in Rachel's tiny apartment. He did not have money for an expensive ring. The diamond was small, but Rachel did not care. She loved him. She said yes. They got married at a courthouse with 2 friends as witnesses. Rachel wore a white dress from Macy's. Derek wore his only suit. They could not afford a honeymoon, so they spent the weekend hiking in the Cascades and sleeping in a tent. Rachel got pregnant 6 months after the wedding. She was terrified. They barely had money for rent. How would they afford a baby? But Derek was overjoyed. We will figure it out. We always do. When Rachel went in for her 12-week ultrasound, the technician got very quiet. She moved the wand around Rachel's belly for a long time without speaking. Is something wrong? Rachel's heart started pounding. The technician smiled. No, nothing is wrong, but I am seeing 2 heartbeats. Twins. Rachel started crying right there on the exam table. Derek cried too. He kissed Rachel's forehead over and over. We are having twins. Oh my God, we are having twins. Harper Rose and Paige Marie were born on a cold March morning. They were tiny, perfect, identical except for a small birthmark on Harper's left shoulder. Rachel and Derek brought them home to their 1-bedroom apartment. They could not afford a crib, so the baby slept in a dresser drawer padded with blankets. Rachel went back to work after 6 weeks because they needed the money. Derek's mother watched the twins during the day. It was hard, exhausting, stressful, but they were happy. Then, when the twins were 18 months old, everything changed. Derek's company got its first major investment, $2 million from a venture capital firm. Suddenly Derek was hiring employees, renting real office space, buying new equipment. Within a year, Castellano Technologies was valued at $50 million. Within 2 years, it was worth $200 million. Derek hired more people, expanded into new markets, made deal after deal. The money started pouring in. Derek bought a mansion in Medina, the wealthiest neighborhood in the Seattle area. The house had 12 rooms, a pool, a view of Lake Washington. Rachel walked through it the first time and felt like she was in a museum. This is too much. Rachel stood in the enormous kitchen with its marble countertops and professional-grade appliances. We do not need all this space. I want to give you and the girls the best. Derek wrapped his arms around her waist. You supported me when I had nothing. Now I get to take care of you. But as the money grew, Derek changed. He started attending exclusive networking events, charity galas where tickets cost $5,000 per person, private clubs where membership required a net worth of at least $10 million. Rachel went with him at first, but she felt uncomfortable. The women at these events wore gowns that cost more than Rachel used to make in a year. They talked about vacation homes in Aspen and yachts in the Mediterranean. They looked at Rachel's Target dresses and Payless shoes with barely concealed contempt. You need to dress better, Derek told her after one particularly awful gala. People notice these things. I am a kindergarten teacher, Rachel said quietly. I do not need Chanel dresses to teach 5-year-olds how to read. You are also my wife. Derek's voice had an edge Rachel had never heard before. You represent me and my company. Appearance matters. Rachel started declining invitations to events. She would rather stay home with Harper and Paige anyway. The girls were 3 years old now, bright and curious and full of energy. But Derek went to the events without her. He came home later and later. He talked less about his day. He spent more time on his phone. The distance between them grew like a canyon. When the twins were 5, Rachel suggested they sell the mansion and move to a smaller house. We do not need all this space. And honestly, Derek, I miss our old life. I miss when we were just us. Derek looked at her like she had suggested they move to Mars. Downsize? Rachel, we are worth almost $1 billion. Why would we downsize? Because money is not making us happy. Rachel tried to take his hand, but he pulled away. We barely talk anymore. You are always working, or at some event. The girls ask me why Daddy is never home. I am building something. Derek's voice was cold. I am securing our future. Our daughters will never have to worry about money. They will have every advantage, every opportunity. But what about having a father who is present? What about having parents who actually love each other? Derek did not answer. He left the room. The marriage limped along for another 2 years. Rachel kept teaching. She loved her job, loved working with children who came from normal families. Families where parents packed lunches in paper bags and drove old minivans. Derek kept building his empire. Castellano Technologies was now valued at over $1 billion. Derek was featured in Forbes magazine. People called him a visionary, a genius, but at home, he was a stranger. When Harper and Paige were 7, Derek asked Rachel for a divorce. They were sitting in the mansion's formal living room, a room Rachel never used because it felt cold and sterile. Derek wore an expensive suit. He had just come from a business dinner. I think we should separate. Derek did not look at her when he said it. We have grown apart. We want different things. Rachel felt numb. What about the girls? They will be fine. We will share custody. I will make sure they are taken care of financially. That is not what I meant. Rachel's voice broke. They need their father, Derek. They need you present and involved, not just paying for things. I will be involved. Derek stood up. I have already talked to a lawyer. This can be civil and quick if we both cooperate. Rachel hired a lawyer, but her lawyer was a solo practitioner working out of a small office in Renton. Derek's lawyers were from a massive downtown firm with 100 attorneys. The divorce was not civil. It was a massacre. Derek's lawyers argued that he could provide a better life for the girls, better schools, better opportunities, better everything. Rachel's lawyer argued that children needed stability and love more than money, that Rachel had been their primary caregiver their entire lives, that Derek worked 80 hours a week and barely saw them. The judge was an older man who seemed impressed by Derek's wealth and success. He awarded primary custody to Derek. Rachel got the girls every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. Rachel cried in the courthouse bathroom for an hour after the ruling. She moved out of the mansion into a small 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside, a working-class neighborhood. The apartment was a quarter of the size of the bedroom she had shared with Derek, but it was hers. Derek kept the mansion, and he kept Harper and Paige. Rachel's life became a series of countdowns, counting the days until Wednesday evening, counting the hours until the weekend, living for the moments when her daughters were with her. The girls hated the custody arrangement. They cried every time Derek picked them up from Rachel's apartment. "Mom, why can we not just live with you?" Harper would ask, her eyes full of confusion. "Because the judge said you have to live with your dad." Rachel would force herself to smile. "But I will see you on Wednesday. That is only 4 days away." It was torture, pure torture. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Derek called Rachel with news. "I am getting remarried." Rachel was making dinner in her tiny kitchen. She nearly dropped the phone. "What?" "Her name is Vanessa Ashcroft. We met at a tech conference in San Francisco. I wanted to tell you before the girls found out." "Derek, you have been divorced for 6 months." Rachel sat down heavily on her second-hand couch. "Do you even know this woman?" "I know her well enough." Derek's voice was defensive. "She is smart, sophisticated, and she understands my world. The girls will like her." But Rachel could hear it in his voice. He was not marrying Vanessa because he loved her. He was marrying her because she fit the image he wanted. Rich, polished, connected. Rachel met Vanessa 2 weeks later when she picked up Harper and Paige for the weekend. Vanessa answered the door of the mansion. She was tall and blonde and stunning. She wore white linen pants and a silk blouse that probably cost more than Rachel's monthly rent. "You must be Rachel." Vanessa's smile was perfect. White teeth, expensive lipstick. "I have heard so much about you." Rachel doubted that. "Nice to meet you." Vanessa called into the house. "Girls, your mother is here." Harper and Paige came running. They hugged Rachel tightly. Both girls looked tired. "Did you have a good week?" Rachel asked, smoothing Harper's hair. "It was okay." Paige's voice was quiet. Rachel looked at Vanessa. "Thank you for taking care of them." "Of course." Vanessa's smile never wavered. "They are wonderful girls. But when Rachel looked into Vanessa's eyes, she saw nothing. No warmth, no genuine affection, just cold calculation. Derek married Vanessa 3 months later. The wedding was featured in Seattle Met magazine. 200 guests. A ceremony at a historic estate. Vanessa wore a dress designed by Vera Wang. Rachel saw the photos online. She felt nothing, just a dull ache where her heart used to be. After the wedding, Vanessa moved into the mansion with Derek and the girls. Rachel tried to be positive. Maybe Vanessa would be a good stepmother. Maybe she would genuinely care for Harper and Paige. But the girls started coming to Rachel's apartment with troubling stories. It was a Wednesday evening. Rachel had made spaghetti for dinner. Harper and Paige sat at the small kitchen table, picking at their food. "What is wrong, sweethearts?" Rachel noticed they were both unusually quiet. Harper looked at Paige. Paige nodded. "Mom, Vanessa is nice when Dad is around." Harper's voice was barely above a whisper. "But when he leaves for work, she changes." Rachel set down her fork. "Changes how?" "She says mean things." Paige's eyes filled with tears. "She told us we are ungrateful. She said we do not deserve everything Dad gives us." Rachel's blood ran cold. "What else does she say?" "She said we are spoiled brats." Harper was crying now too. "She said our mom, meaning you, turned us against her. But that is not true. We tried to like her. We really did. I know you did, babies." Rachel pulled both girls into her arms. "Did you tell your dad?" "We tried." Paige sobbed into Rachel's shoulder. "But he does not believe us. He says we are making it up because we miss you." Rachel called Derek that night after the girls went to bed. She tried to stay calm, tried to explain what Harper and Paige had told her. Derek sighed heavily. "Rachel, they are adjusting to a new family dynamic. It is normal for them to act out." "They are not acting out." Rachel gripped the phone tightly. "They are telling me that Vanessa is verbally abusing them when you are not around. That is ridiculous. Vanessa loves those girls. She told me herself how much she cares about them. Then why are our daughters coming to me in tears? Because you are feeding into this." Derek's voice turned cold. "You are encouraging them to reject Vanessa. You have never accepted that I moved on." Rachel's heart broke. "This has nothing to do with my feelings about your marriage. This is about our children's well-being. I am not having this conversation," Derek said. "The girls are fine. Vanessa is fine. You need to stop poisoning them against her." He hung up. Rachel stared at her phone. She felt helpless. Completely and utterly helpless. She called her lawyer the next day, explained the situation, asked about modifying the custody arrangement. Her lawyer was honest. "It will be difficult. You would need concrete evidence of abuse or neglect. Right now, it is just the children's word against Vanessa's. And frankly, Derek's legal team will destroy us in court. They will paint you as a jealous ex-wife trying to sabotage his new marriage." "So I am supposed to do nothing?" Rachel asked. "Document everything," her lawyer said. "Write down what the girls tell you. Keep a journal with dates and times. If you build a strong enough case, we can try for a modification. But I have to warn you. Derek threatened to file for sole custody and eliminate your visitation if you make waves." Rachel felt sick. He would do that. His lawyers already sent a letter suggesting it. So Rachel was trapped. She could fight for her daughters and risk losing them completely. Or she could stay quiet and watch them suffer. She chose to stay quiet. It was the hardest decision of her life. The girls continued to visit every Wednesday and every other weekend. They continued to tell Rachel about Vanessa's cruelty. Rachel documented everything in a notebook she kept hidden in her closet. Vanessa told Harper she was stupid when she got a B on a math test. Vanessa told Paige she was gaining weight and needed to eat less. Vanessa locked them in their rooms when Derek was traveling for business. Rachel's heart broke a little more each time, but she could not protect them. She had no power, no money, no legal recourse. Then, 3 weeks ago, everything changed again. It was a Sunday evening. Rachel had just dropped Harper and Paige back at the mansion after their weekend together. She was driving home when her phone rang. Derek's name appeared on the screen. Rachel answered. "Hello?" There was a long pause. Then a voice she did not recognize. "Miss Winters? This is Officer Patricia Morrison with the Coast Guard. I am calling about your ex-husband, Derek Castellano." Rachel pulled over to the side of the road. "What about him?" I am very sorry to inform you that Mr. Castellano was involved in an accident this afternoon. He was on his yacht in the San Juan Islands when a sudden storm hit. He went overboard. We recovered his body about an hour ago. The world stopped. What? Rachel could not process the words. I am so sorry for your loss. The officer's voice was gentle. Mr. Castellano's wife has been notified. We will need someone to come identify the body. Since you are listed as next of kin for his minor children, I wanted to inform you directly. Rachel sat in her car on the side of the road and felt nothing. Not sadness, not relief, just a vast, empty numbness. Derek was dead, the father of her children, the man she had loved for so many years, the man who had broken her heart and taken her daughters. Dead. Rachel drove straight to the mansion. She needed to be with Harper and Paige. They would be devastated. Vanessa answered the door. Her eyes were red. She wore all black already. I assume you heard. Where are the girls? Rachel pushed past her into the house. Upstairs in their room. Vanessa's voice was flat. Rachel found Harper and Paige sitting on Harper's bed. They were holding hands and crying silently. When they saw Rachel, they ran to her. Mom. Paige collapsed into Rachel's arms. Daddy is gone. I know, baby. I know. Rachel held both girls while they sobbed. She stayed with them all night, slept in Harper's room with both girls curled against her. Vanessa did not object. The next morning, Rachel made breakfast for the girls. Vanessa stayed in her room. Derek's lawyer, Mr. Howard Beckett, called that afternoon. He asked Rachel to come to his office the following day for the reading of Derek's will. Rachel brought Harper and Paige with her. They sat in Mr. Beckett's downtown office with its view of Elliott Bay. The office was all glass and steel and expensive furniture. Vanessa was already there. She sat in a leather chair near the windows. She wore a black Chanel suit and pearls. Her makeup was perfect. She looked composed, confident. Mr. Beckett was a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. He shook Rachel's hand. Thank you for coming, Miss Winters. I know this is a difficult time. They all sat down. Harper and Paige sat on either side of Rachel. Vanessa sat across from them. Mr. Beckett opened a folder. I will read the relevant portions of Derek's will. He cleared his throat and began. I, Derek Michael Castellano, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. I leave all my assets, including Castellano Technologies, my properties, and all financial accounts totaling approximately $78 million to my daughters, Harper Rose Castellano and Paige Marie Castellano. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. $78 million. The assets will be held in trust until the girls reach age 25. Until then, the assets will be managed by a trustee appointed by this court. My ex-wife, Rachel Winters, is granted full custody of our daughters effective immediately. Rachel started crying. Derek had given her their children. Full custody. After everything, he had trusted her. Mr. Beckett continued reading. My wife, Vanessa Castellano, will receive a monthly payment of $8,000 for a period of 5 years, as per the prenuptial agreement signed before our marriage. The room went silent. Rachel looked at Vanessa. Vanessa's face had gone completely white. Then it flushed dark red. What? Vanessa's voice came out as a strangled whisper. Mr. Beckett looked up from the papers. I am sorry, Mrs. Castellano, but these are the terms of the will. $8,000 a month? Vanessa stood up suddenly. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. That is it? I am his wife. I deserve half of everything. Community property laws state that I am entitled to half of all assets acquired during the marriage. You signed a prenuptial agreement. Mr. Beckett's voice remained calm. The agreement is legally binding. Your marriage lasted less than 3 years. The terms are very clear. You receive $8,000 per month for 5 years. That is $96,000 per year. $480,000 total. Vanessa's hands were shaking. Derek promised me. He said I would be taken care of. You're being taken care of, according to the agreement you signed. Vanessa looked at Harper and Paige. Her expression was pure hatred. Those girls do not need $78 million. They are children. I am the one who stood by Derek. I am the one who hosted his business dinners and attended his conferences. I earned that money. Mrs. Castellano, please. Mr. Beckett stood up. I understand you are upset, but this is not the appropriate forum. Vanessa grabbed her purse from the table. This is not over. I will contest this will. I will fight this. You can certainly try, Mr. Beckett said quietly. But I assure you, the will is ironclad. Derek had it updated just 1 month ago. He was very specific about his wishes. Vanessa looked at Rachel. Her eyes were filled with rage. You did this. You poisoned him against me. I did not even know about the will, Rachel said quietly. Vanessa picked up a crystal paperweight from Mr. Beckett's desk. For a moment, Rachel thought she was going to throw it, but Vanessa just gripped it tightly, her knuckles turning white. Those girls, Vanessa said slowly, each word dripping with venom, took everything from me. She slammed the paperweight down on the desk and stormed out of the office. The door slammed behind her so hard the windows rattled. Mr. Beckett sat down slowly. He looked shaken. I apologize. That was inappropriate. Rachel pulled Harper and Paige closer. The girls were both trembling. It is not your fault. Mr. Beckett explained the logistics. The trust would be established within 30 days. A financial firm would manage the assets. Rachel could draw reasonable amounts for the girls' care. Education, medical expenses, therapy, appropriate activities. As for custody, since Derek's will explicitly granted Rachel full custody, it would override the previous court order. Harper and Paige could move back in with Rachel immediately. Rachel cried all the way home. Harper and Paige cried too, but these were different tears. Not entirely sad, mixed with relief. They were going to be together. Finally, permanently together. That night, Rachel, Harper, and Paige slept in Rachel's bed. The three of them tangled together in the small bedroom of the small apartment. My sweet girls, Rachel whispered in the darkness. You are home now. You are safe. But Rachel was wrong. Vanessa was not done. Over the next 2 weeks, Vanessa called Rachel several times. She asked to see Harper and Paige, said she wanted to maintain a relationship with them, that Derek would have wanted it. Rachel did not want to allow it. Every instinct screamed at her to keep Vanessa away from her daughters. But Mr. Beckett advised caution. Vanessa was a parental figure during the marriage. If you deny all contact completely, she could argue parental alienation and cause legal complications. Allow supervised visits in public places. Keep it friendly. Do not give her ammunition to claim you are being unreasonable. So Rachel agreed to weekly lunch visits. Every Saturday, Vanessa would pick up Harper and Paige and take them to lunch. Rachel insisted on public places only. Restaurants, museums, parks. The first lunch was at a cafe near Green Lake. Vanessa brought the girls back after an hour. She smiled at Rachel. Thank you for allowing this. The girls and I had a lovely time. Harper and Paige were quiet in the car on the way home. Mom, do we have to keep seeing her? Paige asked. It is just lunch once a week, sweetie. Rachel glanced in the rearview mirror. Was she mean to you? No, Harper said slowly. She was actually really nice. She asked about school and bought us ice cream. Rachel relaxed a little. Maybe Vanessa was genuinely trying to maintain a connection. Maybe she was not as terrible as Rachel thought. The second lunch was at the Pacific Science Center. Vanessa texted Rachel photos of the girls looking at exhibits. See, everything is fine, the text said. The third lunch was at a restaurant in downtown Seattle. Again, no problems. Rachel's guard started to lower, but Vanessa was planning, calculating, waiting for the right moment to strike. On a Saturday morning in mid-October, Vanessa called Rachel. I would love to have the girls over to the house for lunch today. I could make sandwiches. We could eat in the garden. It is such beautiful weather. Rachel hesitated. I thought we agreed on public places only. I know, but I think the girls would be more comfortable in a familiar environment. And honestly, Rachel, I am not a monster. I know I was angry about the will, but I am trying to move past that. I am trying to honor Derek's memory by being kind to his daughters. Rachel wanted to say no, but Harper and Paige were listening, and Vanessa's words sounded genuine. Okay, just for lunch, and I will pick them up at 2 o'clock. Perfect. See you then. Vanessa picked up Harper and Paige at 11 that morning. She drove them to the mansion in Medina, the house that used to be their home. The girls walked through the front door and felt strange. This place had so many memories, good and bad. Vanessa smiled at them. I made turkey sandwiches. Your favorite, right, Harper? Harper nodded. They ate lunch on the back patio overlooking Lake Washington. The weather was perfect, sunny and warm. Vanessa asked about school. She seemed genuinely interested. After lunch, Paige asked to use the bathroom. Of course. Vanessa pointed toward the house. You remember where it is. Use the one in the main bedroom suite if you want. It is closest. Paige walked through the house to the master bedroom, the room where Derek and Vanessa had slept. It felt wrong being in there, but Paige really had to go. She used the bathroom quickly and washed her hands. As she walked back out through the bedroom, she noticed Vanessa's jewelry box sitting on the dresser. It was open. Inside, Paige could see a diamond bracelet sparkling in the sunlight. Paige did not touch it, did not even go near it. She just noticed it and left. Vanessa was waiting in the hallway when Paige came out. Did you find everything okay? Yes, thank you. They went back outside. At exactly 2 o'clock, Rachel pulled up in her car. Harper and Paige ran out to meet her. Thank you, Vanessa. Rachel called from the car. Anytime. Vanessa waved, but as soon as Rachel's car pulled away, Vanessa's smile vanished. She walked back into her bedroom, straight to the jewelry box. She picked up the diamond bracelet, the one Derek had given her as a wedding gift, worth $60,000. Vanessa held it up to the light. Then she took out her phone and photographed it from multiple angles, creating evidence. She went to her desk and found a pair of wire cutters. Carefully, she cut the bracelet into one piece. Then she put it in a small plastic bag. Vanessa's plan was in motion. 2 days later, on Monday morning, Vanessa drove to Oakmont Academy. She walked into the front office carrying an envelope. The secretary looked up and smiled. Mrs. Castellano. How lovely to see you. I wanted to drop off a donation check for the library fund. Vanessa handed over the envelope. Derek was so passionate about literacy education. I want to honor his memory. That is so generous. Thank you. Would it be all right if I walked around a bit? Vanessa asked. I have such fond memories of visiting the school with Derek. Of course. Take all the time you need. Vanessa walked out of the office and down the hallway. She knew the layout of the school. She had attended events here with Derek. The student lockers lined the hallway near the classrooms. Each locker had a name tag. Vanessa walked slowly, scanning the names. There, Paige Castellano. Vanessa glanced around. The hallway was empty. All the students were in class. She tried the locker. It opened easily. Oakmont Academy used simple combination locks that most students did not bother to secure properly during school hours. Inside the locker, Vanessa saw textbooks, notebooks, and a pink backpack. She pulled out the plastic bag containing the diamond bracelet. She slid it under the textbooks, making sure it was hidden, but not too hidden. The police would need to find it. Vanessa closed the locker and walked calmly back to the front office. She thanked the secretary and left. The trap was set. The next morning, Tuesday, Vanessa sat in her living room and called 911. The operator answered, 911. What is your emergency? Vanessa made her voice shake, crying, panicked. My name is Vanessa Castellano. I need help. My stepdaughters stole from me. They took my diamond bracelet. It was my wedding gift from my late husband. It is worth over $60,000. Ma'am, slow down. The operator's voice was calm. How old are your stepdaughters? They are 9. Twins. Vanessa sobbed convincingly. Ever since their father died, they have been so angry, so violent. I am honestly scared of what they might do next. Where are the girls now? They are at school. Oakmont Academy. Please, you have to send someone. I want to press charges. I want them arrested. Ma'am, they are 9 years old. Are you sure you want to pursue criminal charges? Yes. Vanessa's voice turned cold and hard. I am sure. They need to learn that actions have consequences. We will send officers to the school. Thank you. Vanessa hung up. She sat back on her expensive couch in her expensive house and smiled. Within an hour, officers Kowalski and Brennan arrived at Oakmont Academy. Harper and Paige were in their 4th grade classroom. They were working on a science project about the water cycle. They had no idea what was about to happen. Principal Foster came to the classroom door. She spoke quietly to the teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez. Mrs. Rodriguez looked shocked. She nodded. Principal Foster stepped into the classroom. Harper and Paige Castellano, please come with me. The two girls exchanged confused glances. They stood up and followed Principal Foster out of the classroom. All their classmates stared. Harper's heart was pounding. "Paige, what did we do?" "I do not know," Paige whispered back. Principal Foster led them to the administrative office. 2 police officers were waiting inside. They wore uniforms. They had guns on their belts. Harper grabbed Paige's hand. Officer Kowalski stepped forward. "Harper and Paige Castellano?" "Yes." Harper's voice was barely audible. "We need to search your lockers." Mrs. Castellano reported that a valuable piece of jewelry was stolen from her home. "She believes you girls took it." "We did not take anything," Paige said immediately. "We would never steal." "We will see about that," Officer Brennan said. The officers escorted Harper and Paige to the hallway. Other students were peeking out of classrooms. Everyone was watching. Officer Kowalski opened Harper's locker first. He searched through it carefully. Books, papers, folders, no bracelet. Then he opened Paige's locker. He pulled out textbooks, moved aside folders. Then he reached toward the back and pulled out a small plastic bag. Inside the bag was a diamond bracelet. It sparkled under the fluorescent hallway lights. Paige stared at it in shock. "That is not mine. I have never seen that before." Officer Brennan picked up the bag. She examined it. "This matches the description Mrs. Castellano gave us. I did not put that there." Paige was crying now. "Someone else did. I swear I did not take it." "I did not either." Harper grabbed her sister's hand. "You will need to come with us," Officer Kowalski said gently. "Where?" Harper asked. "Juvenile Detention Center. We are placing you under arrest for theft." The hallway had filled with students now. Dozens of them. Watching, whispering, pointing. Someone pulled out a phone and started recording. Officer Kowalski pulled out handcuffs. Small ones made for children. "Please," Paige begged. "Please do not do this. We did not do anything wrong." But the officer clicked the handcuffs around Paige's wrists, then around Harper's. Both girls were sobbing now. They had never been so terrified in their lives. "We need to call our mom," Harper said through her tears. "We will contact her," Officer Brennan said. They led Harper and Paige down the hallway toward the exit. Every student in the school seemed to be watching. Phones were out everywhere, recording, taking photos. By the time the police car pulled away from Oakmont Academy, videos of Harper and Paige in handcuffs were already being uploaded to social media. The story was spreading. Billionaire's daughters arrested for theft. And in the mansion in Medina, Vanessa Castellano was watching the news coverage on her laptop. She smiled. Everything was going according to plan. Harper and Paige spent their first night in the King County Juvenile Detention Center in separate cells. The cells were small, cold, gray concrete walls, metal beds with thin mattresses, a toilet in the corner with no privacy. Harper lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. She could hear someone crying in another cell. The sound echoed off the concrete. She thought about her mother, about how scared Rachel must be right now. Harper wanted to be brave, but she was 9 years old, and she was in jail, and she did not understand how this was happening. In the cell next door, Paige was curled up in a ball on the bed. She was shaking. She kept replaying the moment in her mind. The officer opening her locker, finding the bracelet, everyone staring at her. She had not put it there. She had never even touched Vanessa's bracelet. But nobody believed her. The next morning, a guard brought breakfast. Oatmeal that was lumpy and cold. Orange juice that tasted like chemicals. Harper tried to eat, but her stomach was in knots. After breakfast, the girls were allowed 30 minutes together in a common room. It was a small space with plastic chairs and a table. A guard stood by the door watching. Harper and Paige ran to each other. They hugged tightly. "Are you okay?" Harper whispered. "No." Paige was crying again. "I am so scared." "Me too." They sat together at the table, holding hands. "We did not do it, Harper. We have to make them believe us." "How?" "Nobody listens to us. Nobody believes us. Mom will," Harper said, with more confidence than she felt. "Mom will fix this." But sitting in that cold detention center, Harper was not sure anyone could fix this. Rachel spent that first night on her pull-out couch, staring at the ceiling and crying. She had tried everything to see her daughters, but the detention center had rules. No visits until after the preliminary hearing. The hearing was scheduled for the next week, 7 days. Rachel had to wait 7 days to see her babies. She called Principal Foster and got the name of a criminal defense attorney, Jordan Hayes. Rachel called and left a desperate voicemail. Please, my daughters are innocent. They are 9 years old. I need help. Jordan called back within an hour. Ms. Winters, tell me everything. Rachel explained the whole story. Derek's death, the will, Vanessa's rage, the accusation, the bracelet found in Paige's locker. Jordan listened without interrupting. When Rachel finished, Jordan was quiet for a long moment. Ms. Winters, I am going to be honest with you. This case is going to be difficult. The prosecution has physical evidence. A $60,000 bracelet in your daughter's locker. That is powerful. Without proof that someone else planted it, we are fighting an uphill battle. Rachel's voice broke. But they did not do it. I know my daughters. They would never steal. I believe you. Jordan's voice was gentle but firm. But in court, belief is not enough. We need evidence. We need to create reasonable doubt. And we are up against a very motivated accuser. Vanessa Castellano has money and motive to pursue this. What do? We fight, Jordan said. We fight with everything we have. My rate is $300 an hour. I know that is expensive, but I will work with you on a payment plan if needed. I will pay whatever it takes. Rachel said, I will sell everything I own. Just please help my girls. I will do everything in my power. Meet me at my office tomorrow morning at 9. We will start building our defense. Rachel showed up at Jordan's office in Pioneer Square at 8:45. She had barely slept. Her eyes were red and swollen. Jordan Hayes was a black woman in her early 40s, with natural hair styled in elegant locks pulled back from her face. She wore a navy blue suit and had intelligent, compassionate brown eyes. Her office was small but organized. Law books lined the shelves. A window overlooked the street below. Jordan gestured to a chair. Sit. Tell me about Vanessa. For the next 2 hours, Rachel told Jordan everything. How Vanessa had married Derek for money. How she had been cruel to the girls when Derek was not around. How she had exploded when she learned about the will. Did you document any of this? Jordan took notes on a legal pad. Some. Rachel pulled out a small notebook from her purse. I wrote down things the girls told me. Dates and times when Vanessa said cruel things. But I never actually witnessed it myself. Derek always dismissed it when I tried to tell him. Jordan flipped through the notebook. This is helpful, but it is all secondhand. The prosecution will argue these are just claims, not proof. What about the fact that Vanessa had motive? Rachel leaned forward. She lost $78 million when Derek died. She was furious. She threatened the girls in front of the lawyer. That gives her motive to frame them, yes. Jordan tapped her pen on the notepad. But we would need to prove she actually did it. Did anyone see her at the school that day? I do not know. Can we check? I will subpoena the school's visitor logs and security footage. Jordan made a note. But if Vanessa was smart, and I suspect she was, she would have had a legitimate reason for being there. A donation, a meeting, something that gave her access without raising suspicion. Rachel felt despair creeping in. So what do? We prepare the girls to testify. We find character witnesses who can speak to their honesty. We attack the prosecution's case wherever we can, and we hope that the jury sees the truth. What if they do not? Jordan met Rachel's eyes. Then your daughters will be convicted. They are minors, so they would likely be sent to juvenile detention until age 18, and Vanessa could petition for guardianship, claiming you are unfit. If she gets guardianship, she gets control of the trust. Rachel felt sick. So she wins. She gets the money and destroys my children. Not if I can help it. Jordan stood up. We have 1 week before the hearing. I am going to work every angle I can. You focus on taking care of yourself. Your daughters need you strong. But Rachel did not feel strong. She felt broken. The detention center finally allowed Rachel to visit Harper and Paige 3 days before the hearing. She was given 30 minutes in a supervised visiting room. When Harper and Paige were brought in, Rachel barely recognized them. They wore gray detention uniforms. Their hair was pulled back messily. Their faces were pale and thin. Babies. Rachel opened her arms. Both girls ran to her and collapsed into her embrace. All 3 of them cried for the first 5 minutes, just holding each other. Finally, Rachel pulled back and looked at them. Are they treating you okay in here? It is awful, Mom. Harper's voice was hollow. We are locked in cells by ourselves most of the day. The food is disgusting. Some of the other kids are mean. They call us rich brats and thieves. We keep telling them we did not do it. Paige's eyes were red and swollen. But nobody believes us. I believe you. Rachel cupped both their faces in her hands. And I have hired a lawyer. A really good lawyer. Her name is Jordan Hayes, and she is going to help us prove you are innocent. How? Harper asked. How can we prove something we did not do? Rachel did not have a good answer. We will figure it out. Together. I promise I am not giving up. The guard announced 5 minutes remaining. Rachel's heart broke. No. Please. I need more time. Rules are rules, ma'am. Rachel hugged her daughters desperately. I love you both so much. This will be over soon. You will come home, and we will be together again. What if it is not over? Paige whispered. What if they think we are guilty? They will not. Rachel tried to sound confident. The truth always comes out. Always. But as Rachel left the detention center and walked to her car, she wondered if she was lying to her daughters. Meanwhile, the media was having a field day with the story. Local news stations ran segments about the case. Billionaire's daughters accused of stealing from grieving widow. The headline was irresistible. Vanessa gave an interview to a reporter from Channel 11 News. The interview was conducted in the mansion's elegant living room. Vanessa wore a simple black dress. Minimal makeup. She looked like the picture of dignified grief. The reporter, a woman named Jennifer Shaw, sat across from Vanessa with a sympathetic expression. Mrs. Castellano, thank you for speaking with us during this incredibly difficult time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my side. Vanessa's voice was soft and sad. Can you tell us what happened? Vanessa dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. My husband Derek died 3 weeks ago in a tragic accident. It has been devastating for all of us. I tried so hard to be there for his daughters. Harper and Paige are wonderful girls, but they have been struggling with grief. I understand that. I am struggling too. You invited them to your home? Yes. I wanted to maintain a relationship with them. Derek would have wanted that. So I had them over for lunch. It was a lovely visit. Or so I thought. Vanessa paused, as if collecting herself. But that evening, I discovered my diamond bracelet was missing. It was Derek's wedding gift to me. The last thing he gave me before he died. That must have been heartbreaking. It was. Vanessa's voice broke. But more than that, I was confused. Why would the girls take it? Then I realized they were angry about the will. Derek left his fortune to them, not to me. I think they saw me as someone who was trying to take what was theirs. So they lashed out. Jennifer Shaw leaned forward. So, you called the police. I did not want to. Vanessa wiped her eyes. But I felt I had no choice. The girls needed to learn that stealing is wrong, that actions have consequences. I hoped that maybe this would be a wake-up call, a chance for them to get the help they need. The interview aired that evening on the 6 o'clock news. Millions of people across Seattle watched it, and most of them believed Vanessa's performance. Online, the comments section filled up. Poor woman. She lost her husband, and then his daughters stole from her. Those girls are spoiled brats. They need discipline, not millions of dollars. This is what happens when you give children too much too soon. Only a small number of comments questioned the narrative. Why would girls inheriting $78 million steal a bracelet? Something does not add up here. But those voices were drowned out by the majority who saw two wealthy children who thought they could take whatever they wanted. Rachel watched the interview from her apartment. She sat on her couch with her laptop and felt rage building in her chest. Vanessa was lying. Every word out of her mouth was a calculated lie, and people believed her. Rachel picked up her phone and called Jordan. Did you see the interview? I saw it. Jordan's voice was grim. She is good. I will give her that. She is playing the victim perfectly. What do? We stay focused on the facts. Vanessa can control the media narrative, but she cannot control what happens in court. We just need to find the crack in her story. But what if there is no crack? What if she planned this perfectly? There is always a crack, Jordan said with certainty. People who lie always make mistakes. We just have to find hers. The preliminary hearing was held 1 week after the arrest. The courtroom was in the King County Courthouse, a large imposing building in downtown Seattle. Rachel arrived with Jordan at 8:30 in the morning. The hearing was scheduled for 9. Already, Reporters were gathering on the courthouse steps. Cameras and microphones everywhere. Jordan guided Rachel through a side entrance. "We are not making any statements to the press. Not yet." Inside, the courthouse was all marble floors and high ceilings. Security guards checked bags. People in suits hurried past, carrying briefcases. Rachel's stomach was churning. She felt like she might throw up. Jordan put a hand on her shoulder. "Breathe. Your daughters need you calm and strong." Rachel nodded and took a deep breath. They walked to courtroom 5C. Inside, the space was intimidating. Dark wood paneling, high ceilings, rows of benches for spectators. The judge's bench at the front, elevated above everything else. The prosecutor, Catherine Frost, was already there. She was a woman in her 50s with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore an expensive gray suit. She had a reputation in Seattle for being brilliant and ruthless. Jordan and Catherine exchanged professional nods. No warmth, just acknowledgement. Vanessa sat in the front row behind the prosecution table. She wore a black dress and carried her cream-colored Birkin bag. She looked elegant and composed. When Vanessa saw Rachel, her eyes narrowed slightly, but her expression remained neutral. At 9:05, Harper and Paige were brought in through a side door. They wore the blue dresses Jordan had brought for them. Their hair was neatly braided, but they looked exhausted and scared. Rachel wanted to run to them, but Jordan held her back. "Not yet. After the judge makes his ruling, you can see them." The bailiff stood. "All rise." The Honorable Judge Christopher Brennan presiding. Everyone stood. Judge Brennan entered through a door behind the bench. He was in his late 60s, with sharp blue eyes and silver hair. He wore the traditional black robe. His expression was stern. He sat down. Everyone else sat. Judge Brennan looked at the papers in front of him. "This is a preliminary hearing for the case of the State of Washington versus Harper Rose Castellano and Paige Marie Castellano. The defendants are charged with felony theft. Ms. Frost, present your case." Catherine Frost stood. She moved with confidence. "Your Honor, the state's case is straightforward. On October 15th, the defendants visited the home of Mrs. Vanessa Castellano. During that visit, they stole a diamond bracelet valued at $60,000. 2 days later, the bracelet was found in Paige Castellano's school locker by police officers responding to Mrs. Castellano's complaint. Frost walked to the evidence table and held up a plastic bag. "This is the bracelet in question. We have photographs proving it belongs to Mrs. Castellano. We have the testimony of the police officers who found it. And we have Mrs. Castellano's testimony that the defendants were in her home the day it went missing." She turned to look at Harper and Paige. "Your Honor, these are not hardened criminals. They are children, but that does not mean they are incapable of theft. The evidence is clear. I am asking the court to bind this case over for trial." Catherine Frost sat down. Judge Brennan looked at Jordan. "Miss Hayes, your response." Jordan stood. She looked calm and professional. "Your Honor, the state's case is entirely circumstantial. Yes, a bracelet was found in my client's locker, but there is no evidence whatsoever that my clients put it there. No fingerprints were taken. No witnesses saw them take it. The only evidence is the word of Mrs. Castellano, who has significant motive to lie." Objection. Catherine Frost stood quickly. "Counsel is making accusations without foundation." Sustained. Judge Brennan looked at Jordan with a warning. "Ms. Hayes, stick to the facts." Jordan nodded. "Your Honor, the facts are these. Harper and Paige Castellano are 9 years old. They have no history of criminal behavior, no history of lying or theft. They are honor students with excellent character references. They recently inherited $78 million from their late father. Why on earth would they steal a $60,000 bracelet?" The judge leaned back in his chair. "That is a fair question, Miss Frost." Catherine stood again. "Motivation for theft is not always logical, Your Honor. Children do not think like adults. Perhaps they took it out of anger, out of grief, out of a desire to hurt Mrs. Castellano because they blamed her for their changed circumstances. Or perhaps," Jordan interrupted, "someone with actual motive to hurt these children planted the bracelet to frame them." Judge Brennan held up his hand. "Enough. Do you have any evidence of this alleged frame-up, Miss Hayes?" Jordan hesitated. "Not direct evidence, Your Honor, but we have evidence of motive. Mrs. Castellano was expecting to inherit millions when her husband died. Instead, she received a modest monthly allowance while the children received the bulk of the estate. She was, by all accounts, furious. That is motive for resentment, Judge Brennan said, not motive for framing children for a crime. With respect, Your Honor, I believe discovery will reveal more. We intend to subpoena school records, security footage, and witness testimony that will show Mrs. Castellano had access and opportunity to plant the bracelet. Judge Brennan looked at both lawyers for a long moment. Then he made his decision. Based on the evidence presented, I find sufficient probable cause to bind this case over for trial. Trial will be scheduled for 3 weeks from today. Rachel's heart sank. The judge continued, however, given the defendant's age and lack of criminal history, I am releasing them to their mother's custody pending trial. They will wear ankle monitors and are not permitted to leave King County. Relief flooded through Rachel. They were coming home. Her babies were coming home. Harper and Paige turned to look at their mother. Both girls had tears streaming down their faces. This court is adjourned. Judge Brennan banged his gavel. Rachel ran to her daughters. Jordan did not try to stop her this time. She wrapped Harper and Paige in her arms and held them like she would never let go. "We are going home," Rachel whispered. "You are coming home with me." A detention officer fitted both girls with ankle monitors, plastic bracelets that would track their location. Then they were released into Rachel's custody. Jordan walked them to Rachel's car through the back exit to avoid reporters. "I will be in touch this week. We have a lot of work to do before trial. Thank you." Rachel's voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you for believing us. I do believe you." Jordan looked at Harper and Paige. "And we are going to prove it." Rachel drove home with her daughters. She kept looking at them in the rearview mirror. They were thin and pale, but they were here. They were safe. That night, all 3 of them slept in Rachel's bed again. Rachel woke up every hour just to make sure they were really there. Over the next 3 weeks, Jordan worked tirelessly on the case. She subpoenaed Oakmont Academy's visitor logs. Sure enough, Vanessa had visited the school 2 days before the arrest. She had told the office staff she was dropping off a donation check. The school had security cameras, but they only covered the front entrance and the parking lot. There was no footage of the hallway where the lockers were located. Jordan interviewed the school secretary who had been working that day. "Do you remember Mrs. Castellano's visit?" The secretary, a kind woman named Barbara Mills, nodded. "Yes. She dropped off a check for the library fund. Very generous. $5,000. How long was she in the building?" Barbara thought for a moment. Maybe 10 or 15 minutes. She asked if she could walk around the school. She said she had fond memories of visiting with her late husband. "And you allowed it?" "Of course. She was a donor and a step-parent of students. I did not see any reason to say no." Jordan made notes. "Did you see where she went?" "No. I was at my desk. I assumed she was just looking at the classrooms and maybe the library. It was not proof, but it established that Vanessa had opportunity." Jordan also collected character witnesses. Teachers from both Riverside Elementary and Oakmont Academy. Parents of Harper and Paige's friends. Their therapist, Dr. Sullivan. All of them said the same thing. Harper and Paige were honest, kind, well-behaved children. They would never steal. But Jordan knew that character testimony alone would not win the case. They needed something more, some piece of evidence that proved Vanessa had planted the bracelet. And Jordan could not find it. The trial began on a cold November morning. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled half the gallery. Curious members of the public filled the rest. Vanessa sat behind the prosecution table wearing a black Oscar de la Renta dress. Her cream Birkin bag sat on the table next to her expensive lawyer from a private firm she had hired to advise Catherine Frost. Rachel sat behind the defense table with Harper and Paige. Jordan sat at the table in her navy suit, papers organized in neat stacks in front of her. Judge Brennan entered. Everyone rose, then sat. The jury had been selected the day before. 12 people, 8 women, 4 men, a mix of ages and backgrounds. They looked serious and attentive. "Ms. Frost, your opening statement," Judge Brennan said. Catherine Frost stood and walked to the center of the courtroom. She looked at the jury with a grave expression. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is a tragic case. 2 young girls, grieving the loss of their father, made a terrible choice. They stole a diamond bracelet from their stepmother. Why did they do it? Perhaps out of anger. Perhaps out of grief. Perhaps they wanted to hurt the woman they saw as replacing their mother." She walked to the evidence table and picked up the plastic bag with the bracelet. This bracelet was found in Paige Castellano's school locker. Not in someone else's locker. Not in a random location. In Paige's locker. The evidence is clear and undeniable. Catherine turned to look at Harper and Paige. I know these are children. I know this is painful. But justice requires that we hold people accountable for their actions, regardless of age. The defendants are guilty. And I will prove it. She sat down. Judge Brennan looked at Jordan. Miss Hayes, your opening statement. Jordan stood. She walked slowly to the center of the courtroom. She looked at each juror in turn. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to ask yourselves one simple question. Why would two girls who just inherited $78 million steal a $60,000 bracelet? She paused. Let that sink in. $78 million. More money than most people will see in a lifetime. Harper and Paige Castellano have access to that money through their trust. They can buy anything they need, anything they want, within reason. So why would they risk everything to steal a bracelet? Jordan walked closer to the jury box. The answer is simple. They would not. And they did not. Someone planted that bracelet in Paige's locker to frame these children. And I believe that someone is Vanessa Castellano. Catherine Frost stood. Objection. Counsel has no evidence to support this accusation. Judge Brennan looked at Jordan. Miss Hayes, do you have evidence? I have motive, Your Honor. Jordan said firmly. Vanessa Castellano expected to inherit millions when her husband died. Instead, she got $8,000 a month for 5 years. She was furious. Multiple witnesses will testify to her rage when the will was read. She had motive to hurt these children. And she had opportunity. She visited their school 2 days before the bracelet was found. That is circumstantial, Judge Brennan said. So is the prosecution's case. Jordan replied. All we have is a bracelet in a locker. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no proof of how it got there. I am asking this jury to use common sense. Look at who benefits from these children being convicted. Not Harper and Paige. They lose everything. But Vanessa Castellano could petition for guardianship and gain control of a $78 million trust. The jury members were listening intently now. Judge Brennan looked at Catherine. And Miss Frost, call your first witness. The prosecution calls Vanessa Castellano. Vanessa stood gracefully and walked to the witness stand. She wore black Louboutin heels. Her hair and makeup were perfect. She placed her hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Vanessa's voice was soft and sincere. She sat down. Catherine Frost approached. Mrs. Castellano, can you tell the jury about your relationship with Harper and Paige? Vanessa looked at the jury with sad eyes. I tried so hard to be a good stepmother to them. When I married Derek, their father, I knew it would be an adjustment for the girls. I wanted to give them love and stability, but they never really accepted me. I understood. They were loyal to their mother. I respected that. Did your relationship with the girls change after Derek died? Vanessa dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Yes. They became more distant, more angry. I think they blamed me somehow for their father's death, even though it was an accident. I tried to be patient. I tried to give them space to grieve. Tell us about October 15th. I invited Harper and Paige to my home for lunch. I wanted to maintain a connection with them. Derek would have wanted that. Vanessa's voice was full of emotion. We had sandwiches in the garden. It was a pleasant visit. Paige asked to use the bathroom, and I directed her to the one connected to my bedroom suite. Why that bathroom specifically? It was the closest one to where we were sitting. What happened after they left? Vanessa's face crumpled. That evening, I was getting ready for a charity event. I went to put on my diamond bracelet. Derek's wedding gift to me, but it was not in my jewelry box. I searched everywhere. Then I realized Paige had been in my bedroom. She was the only person who had been in there. What did you do? Vanessa wiped her eyes. I did not want to believe it. I waited a day, hoping maybe I had misplaced it. But I knew I had not. Finally, I called the police. It broke my heart, but I felt I had no choice. Catherine nodded sympathetically. No further questions. Judge Brennan looked at Jordan. Your witness. Jordan stood. She walked toward Vanessa slowly. Mrs. Castellano, you loved Derek very much, did you not? Of course. Vanessa's voice was firm. How long did you know him before you married him? 4 months. 4 months, Jordan repeated. And you signed a prenuptial agreement before the wedding? Vanessa's jaw tightened slightly. Yes. Did you read that agreement carefully? My lawyer reviewed it. So you understood that if Derek died within the first 5 years of marriage, you would only receive a monthly allowance, not a share of his estate. I understood the terms, yes. But you expected Derek to live much longer than 3 years, did you not? Of course I did. Vanessa's voice rose slightly. I loved him. I never wanted him to die. But he did die. And you were very angry when you learned the will left almost everything to his daughters. Were you not? I was hurt. You threw a crystal paperweight in the lawyer's office. You screamed that the girls did not deserve the money. That sounds like more than hurt, Mrs. Castellano. That sounds like rage. Catherine stood. Objection. Argumentative. Sustained. Judge Brennan said. Jordan continued without missing a beat. Mrs. Castellano, you visited Oakmont Academy 2 days before the girls were arrested. Is that correct? Vanessa shifted in her seat. Yes. I dropped off a donation check. A $5,000 check for the library fund. Yes. Very generous. Jordan walked closer to the witness stand. What did you do after you dropped off the check? I walked around the school for a few minutes. I have memories of visiting there with Derek. I wanted to feel close to him. Did you go near the student lockers? I do not remember. Vanessa's voice was tight. You do not remember? Jordan let the words hang in the air. The school is not that large, Mrs. Castellano. The lockers are in the main hallway. You must have walked past them. Possibly. I was not paying attention. How convenient. Jordan turned to the jury. Mrs. Castellano, you claimed that Paige stole your bracelet, but you have no proof she actually took it, do you? You did not see her take it. She was in my bedroom. She was the only one who had access, but you did not actually witness her taking it. No, but... So, you are assuming, Jordan interrupted. Just like you are assuming you did not walk past the lockers. You seem to have a lot of convenient memory lapses, Mrs. Castellano. I am telling the truth. Vanessa's composure was cracking. Are you? Because it seems to me that someone who was furious about losing $8 million might be motivated to frame 2 innocent children. Someone who visited the school and had access to the lockers. Someone who stands to gain everything if those children are convicted and removed from their mother's care. That is a lie. Vanessa's voice rose. I would never hurt those girls. But you did hurt them. Jordan's voice was hard. You called the police. You had them arrested. You stood by while they were put in handcuffs and taken to jail. 9-year-old children, Mrs. Castellano, because they stole from me. Vanessa was breathing hard now. Did they? Or did you plant that bracelet to destroy them? Objection. Catherine was on her feet. The defense is badgering the witness. Withdrawn, Jordan said. No further questions. Vanessa stepped down from the witness stand. Her perfect composure was rattled. She sat down next to Catherine and clutched her Birkin bag to her chest. The prosecution called officers Kowalski and Brennan. They testified about finding the bracelet in Paige's locker. Jordan cross-examined them, establishing that no fingerprints had been taken. No investigation into alternative explanations had been conducted. The prosecution called teachers from Oakmont Academy. They testified that Harper and Paige had seemed troubled in recent weeks. One teacher mentioned that Paige had been quieter than usual. Jordan called her own witnesses. Harper and Paige's therapist, Dr. Sullivan, testified that the girls were processing normal grief, that they showed no signs of behavioral problems or dishonesty. Rachel's colleagues from Riverside Elementary testified that Rachel was an excellent mother and that the girls were well adjusted when they were with her. By the end of the second day of trial, both sides had presented their cases. But there was no smoking gun, no definitive proof either way. That night, Jordan met with Rachel in her office. I am not going to lie to you. This is not going well. The jury is sympathetic to Vanessa. She played the grieving widow perfectly. What do we do? I want to call Harper to testify tomorrow. Jordan said, It is risky. She is 9. The prosecution will go after her hard, but I think the jury needs to hear directly from her, needs to see her innocence. Will that be okay for her? Rachel asked. She has been through so much already. It is up to you. You are her mother. But Rachel, if we do not do something to shift this trial, we are going to lose. Rachel closed her eyes. Okay, ask her. Let Harper decide. That night, Rachel sat down with Harper in their small apartment. Paige was in the other room doing homework. Rachel explained what Jordan wanted. "You do not have to do this, sweetheart." Rachel held Harper's hand. "I know you are scared. I know this is hard." Harper looked at her mother with eyes that seemed too old for a 9-year-old. "Mom, if I do not testify, will they think we are guilty?" "I do not know, baby." "Then I have to do it." Harper's voice was steady. "I have to tell the truth, even if I am scared." Rachel hugged her daughter tightly. "You are the bravest person I know." The next morning, Jordan called Harper to the stand. Harper walked slowly to the witness box. She wore a simple blue dress. Her hair was in 2 braids. She looked tiny sitting in the big chair. The bailiff brought over a children's Bible. Harper placed her small hand on it. "Do you promise to tell the truth?" "I promise." Harper's voice was quiet but clear. Jordan approached gently. "Harper, did you take Mrs. Castellano's bracelet?" "No." Harper looked right at the jury. "I would never steal anything. My dad taught me that stealing is wrong." "Did Paige take the bracelet?" "No. Paige would never steal either. We are good kids. Do you have any idea how the bracelet ended up in your locker?" Harper's eyes filled with tears. "Vanessa put it there. I know she did. She hates us because our dad left us his money instead of her." Catherine stood. Objection. Speculation. Sustained. Judge Brennan said, but Harper kept talking. Her voice grew stronger. "Vanessa was mean to us when our dad was not around. She said we were spoiled. She said we did not deserve anything. When our dad died, she got even meaner. She looked at us like she hated us." "Harper," Jordan said gently, but Harper turned to look directly at Vanessa. "She is lying. She is lying about everything. We did not steal from her. She is trying to ruin our lives." The courtroom erupted. Judge Brennan banged his gavel. "Order." Vanessa stood up. Her face was red with fury. "How dare you? You ungrateful little brat. I tried to be good to you. I welcomed you into my home. And you stole from me. Mrs. Castellano, sit down." Judge Brennan's voice was sharp, but Vanessa was too angry. She grabbed her Birkin bag from the table and clutched it to her chest. "I tried. I really tried. But you and your sister are liars and thieves, just like your pathetic mother." "Mrs. Castellano," Judge Brennan stood up. "You will sit down immediately, or I will have you removed from this courtroom." That is when Paige stood up from the defense table. Her small voice rang out across the courtroom. "Her phone is recording." Everything stopped. Every eye in the courtroom turned to Paige. She was pointing at Vanessa's Birkin bag. "What did you say?" Judge Brennan asked. "Her phone." Paige's voice was shaking but certain. "In her bag. I can see the screen glowing. The recording app is on. It has been on this whole time." Vanessa's face went completely white. She clutched the bag tighter. Judge Brennan's eyes narrowed. "Mrs. Castellano, please hand your phone to the bailiff." "No," Vanessa's voice cracked. "That is my private property. You cannot just take it. This is a court of law." Judge Brennan's voice was like steel. "I will ask you one more time. Hand over that phone. Now." The bailiff approached Vanessa. She tried to step back, but there was nowhere to go. The bailiff reached for the bag. Vanessa pulled it away. "Do not touch me." Vanessa's voice was rising. "You have no right. This is illegal search and seizure." The bailiff was firm but gentle. He took the bag from Vanessa's hands. She tried to hold on, but he was stronger. He opened the bag and pulled out an iPhone in a designer case. The screen was glowing. A voice recording app was active. The timer showed 18 days, 6 hours, 23 minutes. The courtroom was so silent you could hear people breathing. Judge Brennan took the phone from the bailiff. He stared at the screen. His expression darkened with every second. 18 days. His voice was cold. "This recording has been running since before these children were arrested." Vanessa was shaking. "I did not know. I must have pressed it by accident. I swear I did not mean to leave it on." Judge Brennan looked at her with disgust. "Should I press stop, Mrs. Castellano, or should I see what has been recorded?" Vanessa's expensive lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, I need a moment to confer with my client." "Sit down, counselor." Judge Brennan did not look away from Vanessa. "I want to know what is on this recording. You cannot listen to that without a warrant. Vanessa was desperate now. "It is my private property. I have rights. You are in my courtroom. You have been recording these proceedings without permission. That alone is a violation." Judge Brennan scrolled backward through the recording. "But I suspect there is something much more interesting on here." He found a timestamp from 2 weeks earlier. Pressed play. The courtroom speakers crackled. Then Vanessa's voice filled the room. But it was not the sweet, sorrowful voice she had used on the witness stand. This voice was cold, calculating, filled with venom. "Those little brats think they are going to get all of Derek's money, $78 million. It should be mine. I married that boring man. I sat through his endless business dinners and smiled at his pathetic friends and pretended to care about his stupid company. I earned every penny of that money." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Vanessa's face was bright red now. The recording continued. "I will plant the bracelet in their school lockers. It will be easy. I volunteer at Oakmont Academy. I have access to the student hallway. I will slip it into Paige's locker, call the police, and play the devastated victim. They are just children. No one will believe them over me." Vanessa laughed on the recording. It was a cruel, ugly sound. "Once they are convicted and sent away, I can petition the court to transfer guardianship to me. Rachel is clearly an unfit mother. She could not even afford a decent lawyer if it were not for pro bono work. I will get guardianship. I will control the trust, and I will finally get what Derek owed me. Every single dollar." The courtroom exploded. Reporters were scrambling to take notes. Jury members were staring at Vanessa with expressions of shock and disgust. Catherine Frost had her head in her hands. Judge Brennan stopped the recording. He looked at Vanessa with an expression of pure fury. "In 30 years on this bench, I have never witnessed such evil." Vanessa tried to speak. "Your Honor, I can explain. I was angry. I was upset. I did not mean those things. I would never actually hurt those children. You framed them." Judge Brennan's voice shook with rage. "You planted evidence. You lied to the police. You committed perjury on the stand. You tried to send 2 innocent children to juvenile detention so you could steal their inheritance. It is not like that." Vanessa was crying now. Real tears. Not the fake tears she had performed earlier. "You do not understand. Derek used me. He married me for appearances, to have a trophy wife for his business events. I gave him 3 years of my life. I earned that money. You earn nothing," Judge Brennan said coldly. "Bailiff, arrest Vanessa Castellano immediately. Charges of fraud, perjury, child endangerment, evidence tampering, and attempted theft." The bailiff pulled out handcuffs, the same handcuffs that had been used on Harper and Paige. Vanessa screamed, "No, you cannot do this. I want my lawyer. This is entrapment. Someone must have tampered with my phone. Those girls, they must have done something." The bailiff clicked the handcuffs around Vanessa's wrists. She tried to pull away, thrashing and screaming. "I will appeal." Vanessa's voice was wild. "I will sue all of you. This is not over. You will all pay for this." The bailiff led her toward the courtroom doors. Vanessa was still screaming, cursing, threatening. The doors closed behind her with a heavy thud. Silence fell over the courtroom. Judge Brennan turned to Harper and Paige. His stern expression softened. He looked at them with genuine compassion. "Harper, Paige, on behalf of this court, I owe you a profound apology. You were failed by the system that should have protected you. I failed you. I allowed this case to proceed without sufficient scrutiny." His voice was thick with emotion. "All charges against you are dropped immediately. You are free to go home with your mother, and I will personally ensure that Vanessa Castellano faces the full consequences of her actions." Rachel was already running toward her daughters. She wrapped them in her arms. All 3 of them were crying. "You are safe." Rachel kept whispering, "You are safe. You are coming home. It is over." The courtroom erupted in applause. Even some of the reporters were clapping. The jury members looked relieved. Jordan stood at the defense table, wiping tears from her eyes. Judge Brennan banged his gavel one last time. "This court is adjourned." Rachel drove Harper and Paige home in her old car. The ankle monitors were removed at the courthouse. The girls were free. They drove through Seattle in silence. Harper and Paige stared out the windows at the city. They had been through something no child should ever experience. They had been accused, arrested, jailed, and put on trial, all because of one woman's greed. But they had survived. The truth had won. When they got back to the small apartment in Riverside, Rachel made hot chocolate. They sat together on the pull-out couch, wrapped in blankets. "Can we sleep in your room tonight, Mom?" Paige asked. "Of course, baby. We can sleep together for as long as you need." That night, Rachel lay in bed with Harper and Paige curled on either side of her. She listened to them breathe. She felt their warmth. She thanked God they were safe. Over the following days, the media coverage shifted dramatically. The story was no longer about spoiled rich kids who stole from their stepmother. Now it was about an evil woman who tried to destroy innocent children. Vanessa's interview was replayed on every news station. But now, people saw through the performance. They heard the lies. They recognized the manipulation. The comments online turned against Vanessa. She is a monster. How could she do that to children? I hope she spends decades in prison. Those poor girls. Vanessa was held in King County Jail without bail. Her trial was scheduled for 6 months later, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. Her own recorded confession. Her lawyer tried to argue that the recording had been obtained illegally, but the judge ruled that since Vanessa had brought the phone into the courtroom herself, she had waived any expectation of privacy. 6 months later, Vanessa was convicted on all charges: fraud, perjury, child endangerment, evidence tampering, attempted theft. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Rachel did not attend the sentencing. She was done giving Vanessa any space in her life or her thoughts. She was focused entirely on her daughters. Harper and Paige continued therapy with Dr. Sullivan 3 times a week. Slowly, they began to process the trauma. They talked about their fear, their anger, their sense of betrayal. Dr. Sullivan was patient and kind. She gave them tools to cope with nightmares and anxiety. She helped them understand that what happened was not their fault. One afternoon, about 6 months after the trial, Harper had a breakthrough in therapy. "I keep thinking I should have known. Should have seen that Vanessa was evil." Dr. Sullivan shook her head gently. "Harper, you were 7 years old when she married your father. You are 9 now. You are a child. It is not your job to see through adult deception. Vanessa is a skilled manipulator. She fooled your father. She fooled lawyers. She almost fooled a jury. You cannot blame yourself, but we trusted her. We went to her house. We let her into our lives. That is called being a trusting child," Dr. Sullivan said. "That is normal and healthy. Vanessa is the one who violated that trust, not you." Paige had her own struggles. She developed anxiety about school. She worried that people would always see her as the girl who was arrested, the girl in handcuffs. Rachel transferred both girls to Riverside Elementary, the public school where she taught. She wanted them close. She wanted to be able to check on them throughout the day. At first, Harper and Paige were nervous, but the kids at Riverside Elementary did not care about the trial or the arrest. They were just normal kids who wanted to play and learn. Harper made friends with a girl named Jade, who loved reading. Paige made friends with a boy named Marcus, who was amazing at art. Slowly, the girls started smiling again, started laughing, started being kids. The trust fund was fully established with Mr. Beckett and a financial management firm overseeing it. Rachel could draw funds for the girls' needs. She used it for therapy, for new clothes as they grew, for art supplies and books and music lessons. But she refused to use it for herself. This is their father's gift to them, not to me. Mr. Beckett convinced Rachel to accept some improvements to their living situation. You are their guardian. Their home is their need. A stable, safe home environment is essential for their well-being. Reluctantly, Rachel agreed. They moved from the small apartment to a modest 3-bedroom house in Riverside. Nothing extravagant, just a simple house with a small yard. Harper decorated her room in lavender and purple. She filled it with bookshelves. Paige chose yellow walls and covered them with her artwork. Rachel kept her room simple: a bed, a dresser, and photos of her daughters. One evening, about a year after the trial, Rachel was making dinner when Harper came downstairs. "Mom, can we talk to you about something?" "Of course." Rachel turned down the stove. Paige joined them at the kitchen table. They looked serious. "We have been thinking," Harper said carefully, "about Dad's money." Rachel's heart sank. She had worried about this, worried that the money would change them, make them entitled or materialistic. "Okay, what about it?" "We want to start a foundation," Paige said. To help other kids. Rachel sat down. What kind of foundation? Harper explained. Kids who get accused of crimes they did not commit. Kids whose families cannot afford good lawyers. We had Jordan because we had money, but lots of kids do not have that. They get bad lawyers or no lawyers, and they go to jail even when they are innocent. We want to help them. Paige added, we want to give them a chance to fight, like we did. Rachel started crying. These were tears of pride and relief. You want to use your inheritance to help other children. It is what Dad would have wanted. Harper said. He was not perfect, but he was not a bad person. He wanted to help people. We want to honor that. Rachel pulled both girls into a hug. Your father would be so incredibly proud of you. I am so proud of you. They established the Derek Castellano Justice Foundation. Jordan Hayes agreed to serve as the executive director. The foundation provided free legal representation to minors accused of crimes who could not afford private attorneys. In the first year, the foundation helped 42 children. Some were innocent, like Harper and Paige had been. Some were guilty but deserved better representation than they were getting. Jordan hired a team of dedicated attorneys and social workers. They took cases across Washington state. Then they expanded to Oregon and California. The foundation grew. It saved lives. It saved families. It brought justice where there had been none. Harper and Paige stayed involved. As they got older, they volunteered at the foundation. They spoke at fundraisers. They told their story to help other kids feel less alone. Rachel continued teaching second grade at Riverside Elementary. She loved her job, loved working with children from all different backgrounds. She never remarried. She dated occasionally, but nothing serious. She did not need a partner. She had her daughters. She had her purpose. She had enough. Harper and Paige excelled in school. Harper joined the debate team in middle school. She discovered she was brilliant at arguing, at presenting evidence, at persuading people. When Harper was in 8th grade, she won a national debate competition. Rachel sat in the audience and watched her daughter command the stage with confidence and intelligence. She thought about the terrified 9-year-old in handcuffs, and she marveled at the transformation. Paige discovered art therapy. She took classes in painting and drawing. She realized that creating art helped her process her trauma, and she wondered if it could help other kids too. When Paige was in high school, she started volunteering at a children's hospital. She ran art therapy sessions for kids with cancer and other serious illnesses. She watched them smile as they painted. She saw them relax and forget their fear for a little while. This is what I want to do, Paige told Rachel one evening. I want to be an art therapist. I want to help kids who are hurting. You will be amazing at that, Rachel said. When Harper and Paige turned 18, they gained full control of their trust fund. It had grown significantly through careful investment. The total was now over $90 million. They could have done anything with that money, bought mansions and cars and traveled the world. But they did not. Harper used her portion to fund her education at Yale Law School. She graduated at the top of her class. Then she joined the Derek Castellano Justice Foundation as a staff attorney. Paige attended the Rhode Island School of Design. She studied art therapy and psychology. After graduation, she opened a practice in Seattle specializing in trauma therapy for children. Both women used their wealth wisely. They lived comfortably but not extravagantly. They donated to causes they believed in. They helped people who needed help. 20 years after the trial, Harper and Paige were successful, happy, and fulfilled. Harper was now a renowned civil rights attorney. She had argued cases before the state Supreme Court. She had freed dozens of innocent people from prison. Paige was a respected art therapist with a waiting list of clients. Her practice helped hundreds of children process trauma through creative expression. They both married good men who loved them. Harper had 2 children. Paige had 1. They brought the grandchildren to visit Rachel every Sunday. The whole family gathered around the same kitchen table from the house in Riverside. Rachel had moved to a smaller place when the girls left for college, but she kept that table. It held too many memories. On one particular Sunday, as they sat together eating Rachel's homemade lasagna, Harper looked at her mother. "Mom, we want to tell you something." Rachel looked up from her plate. "What is it?" Paige spoke. "We have been talking, and we realize we never properly thanked you for believing us, for fighting for us, for never giving up. You do not need to thank me." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "You are my daughters. I would do anything for you, but not every parent would have done what you did." Harper said. Some parents would have believed we were guilty. Some would have been too scared to fight. But you never doubted us. Not for 1 second. You saved us, Mom. Paige added, not just from Vanessa, but from a system that did not care about the truth. You saved us. Rachel looked at her daughters, at their husbands, at her beautiful grandchildren, and she felt overwhelming gratitude. You saved me too. Being your mother is the greatest honor of my life. That evening, after everyone left, Rachel sat alone in her small living room. She looked at the framed newspaper article hanging on her wall. The headline read, "Woman sentenced to 12 years for framing stepchildren." Beneath the headline, Rachel had written a note. Truth always wins. Love always prevails. Justice may take time, but it comes. She thought about everything they had been through. The arrest, the trial, the terror and uncertainty. But she also thought about the outcome. 2 strong, compassionate, brilliant women who used their pain to help others. A foundation that had helped thousands of children. A family bound by love that no amount of money or hardship could break. Vanessa had tried to destroy them with greed, but she had failed. Because love was always stronger than greed. Truth was always more powerful than lies. And a mother's determination to protect her children was an unstoppable force. Rachel looked at a photo on her mantle. It showed her, Harper, and Paige on the day the charges were dropped. They were standing on the courthouse steps. They were crying and hugging. They looked exhausted and traumatized, but also relieved and hopeful. 20 years had passed since that photo. 20 years of healing, of building, of loving. And Rachel knew with absolute certainty that every moment of pain had been worth it. Because they had each other. They had truth. They had justice. And they had learned the most important lesson of all. That real wealth has nothing to do with money in a bank account. Real wealth is measured in love given and received, in integrity maintained even when it is hard, in standing up for truth even when the whole world seems against you. That is the inheritance that truly matters. That is what Rachel gave her daughters, and what they would pass on to their children. Not millions of dollars, but something far more valuable, the knowledge that you are loved, that you matter. That truth is worth fighting for. And that even in the darkest moments, hope remains. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that good can triumph over evil, then I need you to do something right now. Do not just watch and move on. Hit that like button, not for me, but because this story needs to reach someone out there who is fighting their own battle, someone who feels powerless, someone who needs to be reminded that truth wins. Subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips, because every week, I bring you stories about real people facing real challenges. Stories that remind us what it means to love, to fight, to persevere. And please, drop a comment below. Tell me what lesson from Rachel's story resonated most with you. Was it her unwavering belief in her daughters? Was it Harper's courage to testify? Was it Paige's observation that exposed the truth? Tell me, because this community is built on people who believe that truth and love matter. Share this story with someone who needs hope. Share it with a single parent who is struggling. Share it with someone who has been falsely accused. Share it with anyone who needs to remember that the truth always, always comes to light. Rachel's story is proof that even when the system fails us, even when powerful people try to destroy us, even when everything seems impossible, love and truth will prevail. Vanessa Castellano thought she could use money and manipulation to steal everything from 2 innocent children. But she forgot one thing. She forgot about a mother's love. She forgot that truth is more powerful than any lie. And she forgot that justice, though sometimes delayed, will always arrive. The recording on Vanessa's phone was her undoing. The very device she used to plan her evil scheme became the evidence that exposed her. That is not luck. That is poetic justice. That is the universe correcting itself. Remember this. If you are fighting for truth right now, keep fighting. If you are standing up for someone you love, keep standing. If you believe in justice even when it seems far away, keep believing. Because Rachel's story teaches us that truth has a way of surfacing, that evil cannot hide forever, that love, real unconditional love, is the most powerful force in the universe. Harper and Paige could have become bitter and angry after what they experienced. They could have let the trauma define them. But instead, they chose to use their pain to help others. They built a foundation that has helped thousands of children. They turned their suffering into purpose. That is the real victory. Not just that Vanessa went to prison, but that Harper and Paige became women of compassion, integrity, and strength. Women who use their privilege to lift others up. Women who know that real wealth is not measured in dollars but in lives touched and helped. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this: money cannot buy happiness. It cannot buy love. It cannot buy peace. Vanessa had access to millions, yet she ended up in prison, alone and despised. Rachel had very little money, yet she had everything that mattered: her daughters, her integrity, her purpose. Choose love over greed. Choose truth over lies. Choose integrity over convenience. These are the principles that build a life worth living. I am Dr. Phillips, and this has been Love in Twilights, a story about a mother's love, a villain's greed, and the truth that set two innocent children free. Remember, the best inheritance you can give your children is not money. It is values. It is love. It is the knowledge that they matter and that truth is always worth fighting for. Until next time, keep loving, keep fighting for what is right, and keep believing that truth and justice will always prevail. See you in the next story.